Welcome everybody to another episode of Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom with my fabulous mom, Barb. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you everybody for listening and joining us this week for another episode. We're excited to have you all aboard and on this journey.
Journey it is.
It's a journey every day, isn't it?
It really is. Life is a journey. That's
Just exhausted thinking about it. Sure, this thing is itchy.
Itchy?
Yeah, it was like
It's cute. Looks soft.
Something was like poking.
Oh, probably like one of the wool threads or something.
That's one thing that I'll never forgive you for. You've given me big nipples.
Someday when I get older, you'll see mine.
Oh my God, no. I was like, it literally is rubbing up against the cloth.
And then you'll be like, oh, yep, that's what happened. The older I get, the longer they get.
No, we're all prop them titties up and having, but that's how you know that they're big. That I'm like, they're scraping the fucking shirt here and they're hurting.
You know how people get tattoos of like getting nipples? Maybe you can get like skin tattoos.
A reduction of my nipple.
Yeah.
This is my traumatizing nipple story. I had a flat chest as a kid because all it was like a big ass nipple on just a flat chest. And I would be so
exaggerating.
No, I would be so insecure. When I was younger, I I flick them to take pictures because I'm like, I have puffy nipples. Like that was always anytime. I still do it to this day. So if you see a picture of me ever shirtless and on Instagram, I'm flicking my nipples.
I've been around you doing that.
Because they're big. And they only look okay when they're like all shriveled up. And I remember always saying why did I get these?
But why does it go right to me?
And the reason that I'm even bringing this up, aside from my nipple about to bleed, is that like last night, so my dry cleaner dilemma that I've been talking about on here. So I officially jumped ship.
Yes, here's a follow-up, people. Here's a follow-up.
So I left my first dry cleaners. I just I talked about on here. I just couldn't deal with the emotional baggage that came with it. So I was like, okay, time. It's like I broke up with them. So now I'm like seeing another dry cleaner. I got one pair of pants altered, $75. And I'm not a cheap bitch by any means. Like I'll ball out like the rest of them.
Crazy.
$75 for a pair of jeans.
And they didn't even take them in good for you.
Yeah. And so last night I was like, feeling like a bad bitch because I'm like, I got this outfit right. I'm going to feel good. I got $75 worth of alterations and I put them on too big, which being too big is always a great thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk to Deborah about what too big is, if it's a good thing, wink, wink. And then I literally put them on and I'm like, I need to put a belt on. So then I put a belt on. And then the problem with the belt is that if the belt is too tight, then it pushes into your waist. And then it's like, then I feel like it's bringing more attention where my love handles are hanging over now my pants. And I'm like, this just fucked up my whole day because I was feeling good. I thought I was going to look good. Unfortunately, I feel like I'm going to have to go back to alcohol-fueled emotional baggage dry cleaners because I'm not paying $75 for one pair of pants. I could go to the other place and get 5 things done for $75.
I don't even think you've paid $75 for 5 things.
And I've gotten like some serious shit done.
Yeah.
The dollar signs are leaning me back to it's like I feel like I'm going back to a bad relationship. I'm like, I kind of know that
change.
Yeah, I'm like, I kind of know that this isn't it for me.
I'll put boundaries up.
Yeah. I'm like, I kind of know this isn't for me, but
yeah. But we'll give it one more try.
For the sake of the money.
Which leads us into our episode today.
It really does, about relationships and comfort and how we can really explore our sexual identity.
Yeah.
Look at you picking up on the transitionals.
Look at me.
Today we have on therapist, sex and relationship expert, Deborah Grace. I really love her work. I think she's great. She has like so many gems on her like social media where it's like just not even all around sex, but like given that this is her field of expertise, I was like, oh my gosh, it'd be really great because, the amount of times I've called you during my sexual escapades in my early adolescence, maybe 5 years ago.
I was gonna say early adolescence?
Maybe 5 years ago, I've called my mom after a one night stand, maybe one, maybe twice, maybe three, who knows?
Multiple one night stands.
Yeah. But, you know, it's important to me to talk about this because I said I feel like, especially as a gay man, that like moving to LA and, you know, it's like you have to do these things. Like it's par for the course for the culture. And, you know,
But then
sometimes
there's a stigma that comes with it too. There's the opposite side of having a stigma to it too, of slutty, you know.
damn girl, you almost took out the mic by
I
saying
know.
slutty. She's getting riled up over there. But yes, there is a stigma, and I don't like. I kind of wanted Deborah to come on today because I really want to take back the power and the meaning
Yeah.
behind slutty. Like, I even felt like, you know, when I say slutty to you, like, oh, mom, don't you want to be like a little slut? You're like, you know, it's like, but I think it's like you can be a slut with your man, you can be a slut with your partner, you can be a slut with yourself. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
variations of what being a slut is,
Yes.
and we're not going to be out here slut shaming people.
Absolutely
No,
not.
it's 2024. Get right.
No,
So
but I guess that's my point of like there's a stigma too when you say slutty, like people are like, you know,
yeah,
people
they
can
kind of like.
cringe with that. Yeah.
So we're gonna have Deborah on today, and we're gonna really take away and wash away that negative connotation that comes with a slut. And now we're gonna have Barb be a big old slut. Well, let's get into it. Let's welcome Deborah to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on because I'm like, we've been talking about this topic for a minute. There's so many things that I feel like, whether it's like shame or there's people are just scared to talk about it, you know, the topic of sex.
Yeah.
Just as a whole, I feel like people are very, you know, they tiptoe around it.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to be said about, you know, kind of owning your sexuality or owning being confident in your sexual identity as a human, which I know you can talk a lot about. But for the people that are listening, and you're a sex and relationship expert.
Yeah, well, I started out as being kind of a general therapist, and then I got really into, and I've always studied relationships, like my parents, everybody my own, and written about it. When people talk about their relationship, I would get really excited. And then when they would talk about intimacy in their relationship, I would be like, okay, I'm so in, you know? So I realized that was like where I got most of my juice. And as a therapist, you know, it's such an intimate, it's such an important relationship and thing that you do. So it was like people are the most vulnerable in sex, and it's really hard to talk about. And a lot of people don't get help. They suffer, I mean, decades with not having enough sex, having sex that hurts, not expressing maybe their gender or sexuality orientations, you know. And so I just felt like, gosh, this is the most vulnerable place. And also, you know, I really feel like I could meet people there, and it was interesting to me. I'm always doing my own self-work. Good sex happens in good relationships. So you have to build that foundation. And that's where a lot of people, you know, they just want the quick fix for the sex. But it's like, well, you guys aren't talking, or you're not being affectionate, or you don't feel respected, or, you know, lots of things. So it just, sex kind of brings in everything.
This is where I felt like you'd be great when me and you first initially talked, because I was like, everybody, in my opinion, should have a slutty era. We talked about this.
Right, totally.
And it's not there's no slut shaming. It's really just owning your sexual identity. And you even said, and which you can talk a little bit more too, is like, sluttiness does not mean you need to go like, you know, knock out the whole like lineup of like your block. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe we should take out the term sluttiness. Maybe there's another term that you have for it.
No, but we're reclaiming the power of sluttiness.
And so I know I even Googled like slutty. I'm like, is there another word?
Right.
that we can use? Because
in our day, that was so derogatory, you know? Right.
Yeah. I kind of define it as like someone who is seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake, like to experience arousal, desire, you know, physical, you know, and emotional connection.
Yeah.
And to just, and you could be slutty with yourself. You know, you could be like, wow, I've never masturbated. I've never really tapped into my own pleasure. Or even if you do masturbate, you might, you know, just sort of like 5 minutes and you're watching porn instead of like, you know, am I with my body when I am, you know, pleasuring it? So slutty could be within a relationship, you know, it could be, you feel like you're always kind of tamping down, you know, what you want to do or expressing. And so for me, it's like freedom, but
yeah.
Do you feel like when you masturbate, it should be like, you said 5 minutes. I'm like, Honestly, to me, it's kind of like a thing that you just like crank out when you're like, hey, I got this feeling, I got to get it out and do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the healthy limit of it is. I'm like, to me, it's more of like my body needs this. I need to crank this out. I got a
Yeah.
couple minutes. Let's do this. I don't do it in the sense of like spending a whole bunch of time into it, but like, is that
Right.
okay? I don't know what the healthy
No,
limit
absolutely. And when I said it like that,
What's the time limit? No.
I think like with everything, like, how we like it's really fun to get tater tots sometimes and have fast food. And then sometimes we want like a gourmet meal, right? We want to sit and enjoy. And so this is true of partnered sex. And I think this is true of soloed sex too. And, looking at like, why am I having sex right now? Am I just releasing tension? Am I just, I got a little horny, while I was looking at something or thinking about something, and I'm just going to kind of scratch that itch. And it can also be like a self journey, a self-discovery journey to spend a little bit more time to kind of increase our skills as a lover, even for ourselves. Because I feel like a lot of us, it is a little bit automatic. We have the whatever gets us going. Maybe a lot of people, it's a little bit of porn. And then they're just kind of, quickly masturbating. And if we extend some moments of mindfulness or add some moments of mindfulness, we can increase our palate just for ourselves and when we're with a partner. Because a lot of times it's like tolerating sensation. Can we tolerate more pleasure? Can we extend the experience or like have different areas of our bodies that we're waking up? And that's kind of a tantra path, or, there's different places people spend a lot of energy. It could be like, a lot of people are like, I don't have 3 hours to breathe. And all that stuff.
And it's kind of getting to know your own body too, right?
Yeah. So, kind of like if you think about it, like meals, it's fun to have a variety. And that could be even some people, I'm like, just, maybe stop looking at whatever you're looking at, just take a breath and fill your body with breath while you're turned on.
Yeah.
Kind of open up those, because it's such a beautiful energy, and we tend to kind of keep it in this, just in our genitals, and I think it's a really untapped resource is maybe what I want to say.
It's like a buffet. It's like, just try whatever's out there and see if you're into it.
I know. And people do the same with intercourse, right? I'm like, it's like going to a buffet and only having steak. If like, because so many people are orgasm intercourse focused or whatever, penetration focused. And so I'm like, no, you don't do that at a buffet. You try different things,
Yeah. Well, I'm laughing because Mom, the first time that I talked to Deborah, she was like, oh, your mom. She's like, Big Blue. And I was like, the Big Blue.
Totally. And I love that you're just sharing that and normalizing it, because I think so many women don't, or it's a secret, right? I'll ask couples in front of each other, I'm like, do you masturbate? And, they're like looking at each other, like sometimes they don't even tell, the other person doesn't know,
See, I think it would be, to me, I'm like, I would have to know that my significant other is doing that in some moments maybe, and I'm doing like that. To me is like, you can't not think that. Like, that's ignorant to think that like you're not exploring your body, and you have a moment where maybe that's why I don't even think sometimes that it's like raw. Like, people think like, oh, am I not fulfilling your sexual needs? But it's like,
absolutely,
it's just a moment to yourself that you just want to explore.
Absolutely. Like what you just said, like we can have a sexual relationship with our partner. We have an individual sexual relationship, just like we might see our own friends or go, I don't know, go to the gym without our partner. Right.
Yeah. Well, I do that too. Cause I'm like, we have healthy boundaries in this household.
Yeah. And that takes me to, you can cut this out as we're sitting here having this conversation. My younger son is putting together a chair for me.
Oh, I love
right in front of me on the floor. So I'm like, talk about boundaries. I'm talking with this. My other son's there.
Absolutely. I mean, I love it. But that's what for you guys, I mean, I think it's
my son just yelled, I'm not uncomfortable at all.
We set up this dynamic very everything's on the table. It is a buffet in our house.
You see me smiling and I'm like kind of laughing. I'm like, who, this is
totally
like right there putting something together.
No, totally. I had my son help me with my cover of one of my books. It's now my sex poems books, but it was called Tango, and he was helped because he's just a techie, and I'm like, oh God, is this okay? He's like, it's fine, Mom. I'm like, yeah, but maybe later you'll tell me it wasn't.
That was just a side note that I was
totally.
like, I have to say this because it's just so relevant of this podcast.
Yeah. We just talk about it all.
Yeah,
I'm like, that IKEA furniture.
Is it a sex chair? Is it a regular chair or a sex chair?
Listen, if we got Barb a sex chair, I would be floored if that was the case.
We'll start it. We got to start somewhere. So
right.
So Deborah, for people that are kind of wanting to reclaim the word slutty.
Yeah.
They want to have a sexual identity. They want to be more powerful. What are some things that you feel like somebody should start to explore? Like, what would be the first step? Is it like, there are people in this world that like maybe never have masturbated, maybe never have even bought a sex toy, maybe have never done those things. Like, how would you kind of coach somebody and say, like, it's okay, like, go out there, like, try it out,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So some of it is just like find other people, like start to widen your lens. Okay, sex. If I want eroticism, sensuality, what does sluttiness mean to me, first of all? And just get really curious and start to kind of, when you're in the world, like we can get really judgy if like maybe a person is kind of, showing it or whatever, and be like, wow, look at them. They're really comfortable in their skin, or they're expressing some aspect that is sexy to me. So, being like I always feel like an adventurer, like an explorer, like if you're going to Paris or something, so it's like, okay, I'm going to this slutty land. Like what's here,
Dora the Explorer, but in a different term.
Get me a ticket. Get me a ticket.
Yeah, get me a ticket to Slutty Land. Little instead of like little ruby red slippers, we got some like high heels, clicking. So, a lot of times for people, it's just, and that's where kind of the self-pleasuring comes in. So if you don't do that, what does that feel like to touch yourself? And for some people that, even over panties while you're laying in bed, we're just, what does it feel like to be touched, aroused, to have desire? So starting with your body. For someone who, masturbates every day, like I said, it would be maybe like kind of slowing things down, maybe sharing with your partner, like, or masturbating in front of them. That could feel really slutty to some people. For other people, that they're like, that's how we get off. We mutually masturbate. So again, it's just like wherever you're at.
Yeah.
Clothes are a really nice way, kind of clothes and grooming. For a lot of people can kind of get them in a certain mood. Music. So those are, kind of in your house, right? Like where would you feel free enough to maybe put some music on and, whatever's different for you, put on a robe or try buying some lingerie or silk boxers or something that feels erotic. We think of the senses.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Like, am I even like tasting my food when I eat it? Could I be slutty with food? Could I be slutty with, a lot of things?
I resonate with that because I'm thinking, damn, I shoved my food down my like I'm eating it quick. I'm not actually enjoying it sometimes, and I catch myself being like, are you just going through the motions without actually taking time in it?
Right.
And I think it's important to say here even too, like, to me, I don't view sluttiness as like subjective because everybody has a spectrum of their comfort when it comes to sex. Like I kind of mentioned to you briefly. For me, I went through the motion of like, oh, well, you kind of have to be a slut. Like I'm gay. I'm single, I need to explore my sexual identity and I need to go out there and I need to hook up with as many people as possible and kind of get it out of my system. And I do think it's important to do that in a certain part of your life, because I think when you get older, like I didn't want to be like 40 years old and being like, oh my God, I slept with one person. No offense, mom. But I'm like, oh
right. Whatever.
Yeah. I think we all have different paths because, some people that would be fine. But in a relationship, I think where, say you're with someone for 40 years, I think most people have satisfaction. If, say, they're having slutty phases in there, they're keep growing as a sexual couple. And, I'm in my second marriage. I would say I've had like 2 slutty phases, and they were each between like before I met my first husband and then before I met my second husband, where I was just like, yeah, let's just like have some lovers. And, and I did learn a lot about myself, but also in my second relationship, because my husband, like we talk about sex a lot, we joke, like we're still having firsts. And some of those are like, I'm trying to like look more in his eyes when we have sex because I tend to sort of dart off, and so that seems so simple, but it's really intimate, and so I actually have a goal of like being able to orgasm while looking in his eyes. I have not done that with anyone, even though I'm a sex therapist,
That's a really, okay. So the fact, like, cause that was a big, even for me, it was like, I kind of felt like I went through a period where I kind of had to get like drunk to go and like hook up with people, or had to drink a little bit, like a lubrication already before the actual act in itself, because I was like, it doesn't really feel like me. And I feel like I'm doing something that I have to do. And I think a lot of people sometimes feel like, I mean, how many friends do we have where they're like, oh, I did this last night when I was drunk. I would never do that sober.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there's like, it kind of washes away that barrier to find your
Yeah.
confidence a little bit. So like I would do that. And I just was like, oh my God, this is not really for me. Like I'm not having that
Yeah.
intimate connection with these people. But like my boyfriend now, like to be able to have sex with the lights on, look in
Yeah.
your eyes,
Yeah.
the whole house could have lighting on. And it's like,
Yeah.
damn, like that's actually really powerful, because
Yeah.
there's certain times where I've been in relationships or hookups where I'm like,
Yeah.
we're turning all these motherfucking lights out. We're not looking at each other.
Yeah, you're right.
But
No,
that's the
totally.
point. That's the point of a slutty or like, right? Like you don't want that
Yeah.
connection. You
I,
just are kind of doing it to get it out of your system, I guess.
I don't know if that's true.
I mean, I think that's maybe what people I think what you're saying, Barb, is really important. I think that's what people maybe the negative
Okay.
definition of slutty, right? Like it's not embodied, it's just kind of, like
You're just doing it.
messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas slutty could be really embodied, right? And like I'm really owning my pleasure. I'm really present, I'm asking for what I want. So that's really, that's kind of where we're going, right? Did you find, Paul, like, having those experiences, even though maybe alcohol is in there, that on the other side, like you learned about yourself, even if it's like I learned I like more emotional connection with sex. Like what
Well,
was the
yeah,
takeaways
but
for you?
that's what I mean. I feel like it was kind of one of those things where you like, if you're like trying to try out what you want your career to be like, so you take these jobs and you're
Yeah.
kind of like, it's not really what I want, but I'm going
Yeah.
to take this away from it. That's kind of honestly how I felt that error was like,
Yeah.
oh, this kind of led me. I believe everything in life leads you to a right
Yeah. Yeah.
direction,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
honest.
Me
But
too. Yeah.
I felt like, it was kind of the exploration of it. It'd be like, I'm not somebody who can walk in a room and just start plowing like, that's just not who I
Yeah.
am. And I
Right.
have friends that can do that.
Right.
And I admire them, and I love that they're so sexually confident and liberated. I'm like, but that's
Yeah.
not me. I like knowing the person,
Yeah. Yeah.
like having a form of emotional intimacy before going into it. But I think that it led me to know securely as a man at 32
Yeah.
years old that like that's what I want to, that's what I like.
Right. That
Yeah.
you didn't want to live your life that way. You like being in a relationship.
One of my serious relationships, we were so young.
Yeah.
And, the sex was, like, not there at all.
Yeah.
Like, it was very, like we did have some sexual relationship, but I didn't feel it's definitely not on the realm of, like, what me and my boyfriend have now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt like I was just so kinda, like, desperate to be like, "What is that like?" You know what I mean? Like, what is it like to just do those things
Yeah.
and tap into it? And I do think there's a powerful embodiment of that. That's why I said, like, reclaiming that slutty term.
And isn't there a curiosity too behind it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think too, like with every partner, even every friend we're with, even like the three of us, right? We get to show different sides of ourselves with different people. Different people
Mhm.
bring out different energies. They might, just energetically, we're always mirror neuroning off each other. So sometimes having, more partners, it's like, oh, I got to be, I don't know, just different with this person, or they did something I'd never thought of, or touched me in a way I never would have even thought of, and it could be even subtle, like grabbed my face when we kissed, and I've never had that done.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and I
but
felt like it was really a part of my self-identity too. I feel like I was
yeah,
learning myself as an adult, and
yeah,
I understood things like, I look back now and I'm just like, "Oh, I probably I know I would never do some of those things now."
yeah,
But, you're just younger, you're a little bit more like, "Why not?" And, like, you're getting the
right,
attention and you're doing those things, like,
yeah,
something that always makes me laugh, like, one time I called my mom, there was this guy that I was, like, seeing. I thought he was, like, so cute, and I was just, like, like, if
yeah.
he would be like, "Oh, come over," and the first time that I went over, I remember we were, like, kissing, and I, like, looked over, and he had, like, mug shots framed
Oh,
on his wall. Do
oh
you
no.
remember, Mom?
You're like, oh, do I need
Mom,
to
do you
go
remember this or no?
No.
Oh, and I remember I was just like, and like, I immediately call my mom and I'm like, it was like, hey, I don't know, like, if like, should I be like scared about this? Like, should I
Right.
do? And that's why, like, now I'm like, little things like that. I'm like, I would never do. Like, I remember there were times I would call my mom and I would leave after a hookup with somebody, and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? Like,
Oh, yeah,
I feel gross. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, there's times where I didn't feel good about doing it, but then there were times that I did.
yeah.
I never, like, made you feel bad, like, about
No, no.
that or
Mm,
anything, like, when he would call and, like, question or
yeah,
stuff, I would just really kind of just be supportive and let him talk, and
yeah,
I just figured it was an thing that he had to go through. Yeah.
yeah. And that's really important because if we have like anything that's sort of traumatic or hard, talking about it processes it. And
Yeah, I
so
think that's what he was
beautiful.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful you were there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I like to believe I'm a bit of like I can know within myself like why am I doing something, and I'm
Yeah.
a gay Virgo, so I'm like I analyze the shit out of everything. So I'm like, I would sit in my feelings and be like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? And I knew it wasn't gonna be like a forever thing, but like, yeah, it was definitely
Yeah,
like
I knew with him it wasn't gonna be a forever thing
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. Do you feel, Barb, for you, like, if when Paul said this, like the slutty, like, do you feel like that's a yearning in you to have, a phase of life that's more exploratory, or is it scary to think about that? I'm just curious, like, what
It's definitely scary to think
Okay.
about
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was with Paul's dad for, 40 some years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
that's more than half my life.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, so that's yeah, and one and only.
Yeah.
So that's a very
Yeah.
But you
interesting.
could just see the way. Look how she's even talking. She's so like I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
in a perfect world, we want Barb to get her back blown out. We want her hair swinging. We want her to have that
But I don't
romantic.
know if that's even like me, because
Right.
that's
Right.
how do you know that that's like, I
Yeah.
guess that's where I'm at, is like, I don't know if that's even me. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah. So slutty for you might look really different, or be with one person that you feel safe with, but maybe you feel more free to explore with one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I know what her thing is, just as her being my mom.
Yeah.
She's like kind of like me. She wants an emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
She wants to have that deep connection with somebody.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like kind of like what we're saying though, I feel like I mean, she kind of probably already knows that, but it's still like on that journey. It's like you kind of want to pat her on the back and be like, "It's okay, kid." Like, you know what I mean? Like get out
Mhm.
there, and if you have an experience that maybe is not necessarily what you're looking for, it's okay because it's kind of a part of the journey.
Right. And you're learning, right? Like everything we don't want shows us what we do want.
Uh,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
that's 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you feel, and I don't know if you can share this, did you feel in your 40-year relationship, like sort of that you got to, be sexually adventuresome how you wanted to be, or expressed?
Yeah, I think so. I think we
Mhm.
kinda grew together with that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely with that.
Yeah.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
again, we were both young, so I think as we got older and stuff,
Yeah.
yes, we
Okay.
did.
But
Great.
it's
Yeah.
not like the mind blow like, I want her to have, like, good sex, you know what I mean? Like, she
Yeah.
can't go
How
out
do
of the
you know?
How do you
I
know?
know because I know him to some degree, and I'm like, "He's not giving you what you wanted." That's for damn sure.
But people are surprising, because people that I would be like, oh, they're not a great lover, or they're really shut down. Then I hear stuff and I'm like, wow, like I think so. Sometimes I think we don't always know. And that's why the slutty phase can be, or dating, like really. And I listened to the one that you had the dating expert on. She was great. Over
Yeah,
50.
Yes,
she was great.
Lisa Copeland, yes, we love Lisa over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
she
so
gave
much.
her sound
Yeah.
advice to, like, get out there and
Yeah.
do things, you
It's
know?
Oh,
like you're
totally.
collecting data points, you know what I mean? And when we're just not dating yet, we're not getting that. It's sort of like putting in the reps. And for you, just even like, okay, who wakes me up a little bit? Who feels warm? Who do I feel drawn to? An intellectual conversation kind of gets me going. Or is it more like someone who's, kind of in their body? Maybe they touch my hand or something. It's like for you to start to get some experiences
Yeah.
will be fun, and just see it like that. Like, I don't have to sleep with anybody that I don't want to. You get to choose. And that's the thing about sluttiness. Like, what are your values? You can have, a slutty value. I want pleasure. I want connection. I want ecstasy. I want transcendence, mystery, like all those things. And I want safe sex. I want to feel emotionally safe. I want to, be with someone who's in integrity, or like whatever. Like, we don't have to trade them out. And I think that's what a lot of people fear,
Definitely.
if I have a slutty phase, I'm going to get some, whatever.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's even like, when we're talking about I see my mom and I can just see her facial expressions, and it's like you say when when you say like, you know, I think there's a narrative around being slutty. Like that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's slutty. People are saying like you're just picking someone up at the corner and you're bringing them back home, and that's
Yeah.
not necessarily what it means. It means that
Right.
maybe you're out and you find somebody that you're like, I never thought in a million years I would sleep with somebody like this, or
Yeah.
and it could have been the best sex of your life, and you get an eye opener of that, and you're like, oh wow, I'm gonna take that away.
I also think like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I
A
have
mother.
boys. I'm a mom. Like, I
Oh,
have to be respectable. Like, I have my boys. They
I
think
know.
so highly of me. I don't want to be like this, yeah, I'm going out tonight and oh, I have them all lined up, kind of thing.
Even though Paul is like, please, mom, I would champion that.
Yes, but like one of my
I know.
children would be, and I feel like the other one would be like,
Mm,
Mom.
I
yeah.
would be like supportive of it. I don't know if my mom's having a gangbang at her house, I'm gonna be like, championing that, like,
Right.
to each their own. But I just
Yeah.
feel like because one of the reasons too is that I know I'm gonna take on the emotional baggage that comes with that afterwards. So I'd be like,
Right,
let's
the
just
regret phone calls.
yeah.
Right.
Roles reversed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, is my mom at 50 something gonna call me after and be like, "Oh my God, what did I do?" Like that's a different
Yeah.
dynamic that I think
Yeah.
you're not set up for in life because we're just used to like me. Like I
Yeah.
leave a hookup and I call my mom and be like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck I walked into. What
Yeah.
like,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And I think this is a huge, I mean, I have this tension because I have kids and, I write about sex and I write about my sex life and my journey. I mean, it's really taken me a long time. I mean, I'm just getting my stuff out in the world now because my youngest is 20. Like, I think there was a part of me that was like, okay, you're all adults. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel, and I wish it wasn't that way for women. And I think, all people, right? Men, all people, that there is this in our society, where there's such a spectrum. Like some people are really out there and some people are like, I can't even talk about sex in my family. And so it's pretty big. Like we're holding that. So, I think it's smart to be like, okay, I'm going to hold that part that there is a fear. And yet, we liberate others when we are our authentic selves. So there's
yeah.
kind of, you know what I mean? Like you
Right.
even
I
talking about
liberate my
this.
kids. They tell me everything.
Yeah, and you doing this podcast, like maybe there's a woman who's like, oh, maybe I was thinking about getting a vibrator, but I big blue, awesome, So
I
this
said that's
is,
gonna be our merch that we end. Like if someone's like, "Are you guys gonna do merch?" And I'm like, "We just got to start making vibrators and like
you
selling them."
absolutely do, big blue. Yeah, so I think it's wise to like just I like. Do you guys know parts work? Parts work is basically, we all have different parts of ourselves. So we have like kind of, the inner child, right? We hear about inner child work. We all have that young part that just wants unconditional love. We have the, kind of maybe the judge, the critic. Most of us have that, that is kind of always on us about things.
Yeah.
And then we can say, okay, I have maybe this slutty part of me. And when do they get to come out and play? What guardrails do they need to feel safe? That can be super helpful too. It's like, this isn't all of me. This is like one piece of my pie.
Well, I was gonna say, like, because at the end of the day, when you
Yeah.
feel shame about something,
Yeah.
no one else is. I honestly feel the self shame is a lot worse than other people's
Yeah.
shame. For so many things. If you get too drunk, if
Yeah.
you sleep with somebody, and like I always felt like I was my own worst enemy more than what
Yeah.
anyone said. Like that
Yeah.
to me felt the worst. What would be your tips or recommendations for like somebody doing this, getting themselves out
Right.
there, and
Right.
doing it without shaming themselves and doing that?
Absolutely. It's a great question. First of all, is just to like you would, your best friend, right? So if you think about how can I be my own best friend? Let's say I went out and maybe I didn't want to sleep with someone and I had too many glasses of wine and I did, or whatever, and you just like kind of like, so our self-talk is so important. And I really encourage, that's like what I do a lot in my practice is ask people like, what is your self-talk? Because often we're like, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that. You should have known better. And to really have, I call it like a dual entry accounting. So if you say something negative about yourself, you have to say something positive. Like, oh, sweetie. For me, I was like, oh, sweetie, honey, you were trying. Look at you. You put yourself out there. Look at everything you learned. You're a human. So really being good, with your self-talk is probably number one. And then looking at like, what did you learn? There's, we talk about like post-traumatic stress. There's also like post-traumatic growth. And, hopefully we're not talking about a trauma situation, but even if we were, it's like, what did I learn? How can I going forward? So yeah, having great self-talk, look at you, you're growing, you're changing, you're trying things. What did you learn? Having a support system, kind of like this part, where you can call a good friend and just say, oh my God, look what I got myself into. Super helpful.
The other part of
Yeah.
the spectrum, when would it be concerning?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, obviously safety is huge, right? So we don't, and I think people get scared about online dating. I just saw a stat, 60% of people now meet online. So that's really high.
That's why I'm where I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
I
And to
think,
look at
like, my generation, that is just, it's so crazy to me. Like,
yeah,
I'm swiping on people.
I
Like,
know.
that's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. And so to trust your gut and, get to know someone a tiny bit, maybe, I'm always like hop on a FaceTime or some kind of way. So you're seeing that person, you're kind of, before you meet them, meet in safe places, all those things. You can control the situation. That really helps in terms of, okay, I'm not going to go to someone's house I don't know, maybe,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
and
Sorry
maybe
to
we,
real quick. Sorry, I'm her other son.
hi.
Hi. So I have a quick question. So
Yeah.
I'm 27. I'm just
Yeah.
hearing if I'm building my chair over there.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm a virgin. I'm 27.
Okay.
So now I feel like, because I came out at 24, so it took a little bit late for me
Yeah.
to come out.
Yeah.
So now I feel like I'm nervous and like what you
Yeah.
said about safety, because I feel like Paul said too, like when you come out, you kind of feel like you have to like go
Yeah.
out and have sex and do that. And like now I feel like because I haven't did it, I
Yeah.
have like fear because I'm like, oh, like who would want to have sex with someone who's still a virgin? Or so I still have like
Right.
a intimacy fear kind of over that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people would feel honored to be your first.
Thank you.
So just outright there, like, that this isn't like a deficit. This is actually a privilege to get to be with you if that's, the first person that you're with.
Mm.
So part of it for you to frame it that way, and if you'd want someone who's caring and who would be, understanding of that situation. And so I don't think, this idea of like, you have to go out and have a wild face first or whatever, that's just, again, conditioning. And so for you to really be like, what's authentic to me? What do I want for my first experience? Maybe I want someone I'm in love with, or I want someone I feel really connected to.
Yeah. And then
Does that feel more true? Or is it like, no, I kind of want.
Yeah, that's true. Like, guys, I feel like it's weird for me to be like, oh, I'm coming to your house at this time, or we're gonna have sex. Like that's weird to me. But I feel like if it was like authentic, we were out and I was with someone, like we had connection. But I feel like there's like a
Right, like it naturally just
no one
happened.
pressures me or anything, but I feel like there's society pressure, like you have to get rid of it at a certain age. And now I'm like, I'm 27, the clock is counting.
That's kind of like that slutty phase for me, where I felt like, you're kind of it's like you just got to go out there and run through them, and I don't think my brother's kind of saying, maybe from his own learned experience from my own experiences, that he's like, yeah, maybe not there's some things that came with the bat, like it's not
like I feel like I want that, but like I feel like realistically that's just not how I work.
I have several clients who are gay, and I've heard this, this is what they talk about too. It's like, no, I'm not that. And so and they spend maybe a little more time and have more authentic experiences that are meaningful to them. And I'm like, absolutely, so to really be like, I get to do this my way. And I get to, sometimes it's like having a wingman, or, sometimes we can kind of, I don't know, just kind of be in a slutty phase a little bit. Like, let's say you went out to the bars and you had a good friend and you're like, I just want to feel energy. I'm not ready to have sex with anybody, but it's just kind of fun maybe to flirt for a minute. And so I'm just kind of trying that out. Right. And I don't know if you've done that kind of exploration. Yeah. So being really honest with people.
Some funny stories. We'll see.
Okay. You need to be the guest on the podcast.
I know. I'm kind of happy that he jumped in, but I was like, I mean, that's the thing is like for both of them, Deborah, I'm more worried about both of them.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I got it out of me.
Yeah.
I'm in a healthy relationship, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Those two, it's like where I'm like, okay, I can't deal with the call that's gonna come. Like, I'm just like, oh my god, the baggage that comes with it.
That is
right, because
that will be both.
And Brett has some stories. We won't go into them, but the phone call was to his brother, obviously.
And I imagine, Paul, you could deal with anything pretty much. Don't you think? Yeah. I mean, I know you're kind of, you're being a little, because you are like, I am so here for the two of you, and I can hold space for anything, really. I want to support you. So
it's just funny when you're a child and sibling, and you're kind of like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the one that's going to have to like support and guide them on this journey because they're not there.
Yeah.
He's like, he has a lot of multi-titles.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like he's also my older brother and he's gay, so he understands. Like he did it first before me.
Yeah, totally.
he knows it, but he's like, we also are very different. Like he can have this, like, I feel like I get nervous like now, like at the point, like, I don't want to go to these people's houses. Like that's weird for me. So like, it's kind of going against like how I feel and like societal pressure too.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it can be kind of quick and sometimes grinder, you know, I mean, I think being honest about what you're looking for right out the bat is really important, you know, for both of you is just, you know, I like an emotional connection. I'm getting to know people, you know, whatever it is. I'm not physical the first time I meet somebody. If someone that's a deal breaker for them, then they're not your person, you know, or not someone that you want to be with. Cause there are a lot of people in the world, you know, I always think, cause we can have kind of a scarcity mindset around this, or we can have an abundance mindset. You know, there are people just like you looking for what you're looking for. Just a little bit of like, it's a bit of a sorting process. And that's the thing is when we're just not putting ourselves out there, we're not sorting, you know?
I was gonna say not for nothing. I mean, I tell my brother too, unfortunately, I've done the grinder thing at one point in my life. It's a very toxic place. So when you're going on there, I'm also like your expectations of, I hate to say it. I mean, look, there's love stories and true authentic connection anywhere, but
well, because like I'm not going on there to like find love, like because I feel like I said, like I'm at this point now, like I'm 28. I feel like the clock is ticking. I have to get rid of it. So like that, I don't mean to think like that. Like that's bad to think, but like that's where I'm at. So I'm like, oh well, at least if I give it to someone, at least it's like I'm not a virgin. Like you know what I mean? I feel like there's such a bad mindset I have when it comes.
Maybe I should put this episode out and be like, who wants to fuck my brother?
I know.
I mean,
you know, I think the biggest shift would be like, I am so worthy. This is a gift. I don't, you know, there's no time stamp here.
Thank you.
Just, you know, start there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was a good way, Brett, not feeling pressure to do things that you don't.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. You got three of us for one today.
I love it.
That's kind of how we work.
That's so great.
I was gonna say, I'm kind of happy that he did that. And I said, I'm literally gonna like position this episode now. Like my 28-year-old virgin brother comes on. And
I don't know if he wants.
No, send it out there.
What'd he say? Put it out there.
I said, I don't know. And he said, no, send it out there. I don't care.
I love it. You know?
Yeah, exactly what Deborah said. Don't have shame around it.
I know.
Yeah. And so for you too, Barb, like anyone that you get that's lucky enough to be with you at this stage of your life, it's like, it's a privilege.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because I mean, women in their 50s, it's like, or I mean, just older women, it's like, we know ourselves, like we're funny. Like there's just a lot that women bring at this stage of life. And I think that, you know, our society is starting to wake up to that, but we can feel really like, oh, it's over. I'm not going to be wanted. I'm not, I'm not. And that's not true at all.
I feel like I have a lot to offer.
Good.
It's the pickings. I feel like that might not.
Right. You're like, can I find something I want? Yeah.
I'm like, not to pat myself, but I'm like, I feel like I have a lot to offer.
Good. All that in a bag of chips.
Yes, very much that. Clearly she's my mom. I'm like, we have to hype her up and you see where she's getting her. And, but I love seeing her. I rather my mom think that way because and my brother, because I do think that they deserve people of quality and substance. And I said I don't take that as like a cockiness. I think like that is what you would want somebody to feel like they have values and they want to be respected. And that's why I kind of do think like, you know, Barb's got to wait maybe a year before the cobwebs are dusted off even more. But like, you know, like in a year or so, like, you know, we talked about her coming out to California and like, I do feel like somebody is more out, like you don't know anything about them. It's like exploratory. And I think people find, you know, you kind of romanticize, like, I don't know anything about this person. Like I always think my boyfriend now, he's from Las Vegas. I'm from New Jersey. It's like, what are the chances that this New Jersey kid, this Vegas kid met coincidentally at the gym,
I love it,
became friends, and then like really fell in love with each other. You know what I mean? Like, what are the chances of that? And that's why I kind of want my mom and my brother both to have that. It's like, I don't know this person from anything. And you learn everything about, you know.
Do you feel, Barb, like that is your goal right now, is to, you know, find another relationship? Or is it like, I could just kind of date for a couple years, get to know people?
I'm probably more of a person. I don't know if I'm a dater.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I guess once I start, I'll find out more, if that makes sense. Like maybe I will be.
Right.
You know? I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not looking for a long-term thing right now
Okay.
also, so
Right.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
say that. I'm like,
I
girl,
know.
once
When
someone
you
sweeps her off her feet, she's gonna be so I'm like, that's what I'm saying. We're gonna deal with the like, I can't. I
Yeah.
can't.
When you do your dating profile, I would set it because, like, to go younger. I mean, you can go older too, but a lot of women are like, "Oh, I would never put it younger. You know, it's 56 to 66 or whatever." And I'm like, "No, put that to 40." Because, like, if you are, I mean, just in terms of sluttiness a little bit, like, there's a lot of men who are a little bit younger who are like, "I love being with older women." So attentive, so, you know what I mean? If it's
Yeah.
about kind of just getting to know her, like maybe more about, eroticism or sex or something.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you can put it older too, but I always say that because we never know. And sometimes we meet someone who is 10 years younger and they're the perfect match, or 10 years older. But a lot of women are like, no, no one younger would ever want me. And I'm like, nah, that's not true.
Well, I mean, I'm not accepting my age anyway, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say she's been saying she's 40 for like the last
There you
20
go.
years. So
It'll be perfect.
I said 20 years. She's not even that. She's not even,
I was gonna say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I foresee my mom with an older person because my mom's emotionally
Yeah.
like she's very deep. And I
Mm,
feel like she needs somebody who's been like cultured and has like wisdom and is more
yeah.
like secure in who they are. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I would foresee her with an older person because they're a
Yeah.
little bit more grounded, but
Yeah.
that's just
But
my
at our age, people are catching up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes men take a while and then 40s, 50s, they've maybe had their
Yeah,
career.
like
maybe-
maturity is definitely a huge
Yeah.
thing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I said the maturity hierarchy to me has always been women first, gay men second, and then straight men at the bottom. I have not seen love. I would say, this is not my mom's doing. Like it
Yeah.
just is what it is. But like I've not seen like healthy love growing up.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, I do find it interesting that out of my immediate family, my dad, from what we know, is single. My mom is single. My
Yeah.
brother's single.
Yeah.
I've always been in like long-term relationships or I've
Yeah.
always dated somebody. Why is that?
Right. I mean, I don't know because you're firstborn. It seems like you got secure attachment. Like I would say that, right? Like Barb, do you feel like you were there? You were attentive. You know what I mean? They had their needs met. So you're like,
Absolutely.
only half of the population gets that. The rest of us don't.
I mean, she still is very present. She's very
Yeah.
attentive. I always said I felt like, I'm like, when I look back at the little sassy, bitchy me, I'm like, oh, well, no wonder why. Cause like Barb just made me
I'm
feel
like,
like I
you're
was,
right. Now
yeah,
I'm like,
love it.
did I give them too much attention?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. And just, individual versus partnership. I think that, we all have our evolution, like we get something from each journey, you know what I mean? And I do think we tend to prioritize maybe in our culture, like it's better to be in a relationship or something's wrong if you're not. I think that is overlaid a lot too. So just really looking at that also.
well, I mean, the correlation, I guess, is irrelevant then of like you have parents who are divorced, you have a brother who's single, a mom who's
Yeah.
single. Is that
Right.
does
It
any of
doesn't,
that, it doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't. I guess when I was saying the attachment, it's not like, because then you'd say, well, then Brett got attachment, so he should be in a partnership. You know what I mean? He got secure attachment.
Like that's kind of interesting actually when I
Yeah.
just thought about it now because I was like, that's what I mean. I kind of feel like I led the wolf pack where I was like, I'm an exploring and I'm doing
Right.
those things, but like no one
Yeah.
necessarily in my family is doing that. So they're kind of just all living through my experiences of knowing like what heartbreak can look like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
bad dates can look like, what one
Yeah.
night stands can look like, what long-term healthy relationships can look like.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, I'll admit I'm emotionally needy and I think I
Yeah.
get that. I like when I find I need comfort, I need to be touched, I
Yeah.
need like it makes me think of like childhood where I feel like my mom would just probably just hug me and
Right.
just give me that. And I'm like,
Right.
That's what I said. I
Yeah.
damaged them in a good way.
Oh, right. No, not at all. Well, you like intimacy. You're there for it. You know what I mean? A lot of people, that's uncomfortable.
I do like intimacy. And that's why I said it was such a big thing for me, where I think, to be honest, at 32, I can say like my boyfriend now is probably the first person I've ever been able to have like really good, intimate, sober sex,
Yeah.
look them in the eyes,
Yeah.
be able to like explore and do things and feel comfort. And it could be like, okay, let's take a break. Like, all right, let's go. Like,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
you are very affectionate to each other too. Like I'd
Mhm.
never seen that with him
Oh, I love
before.
it.
They're,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're always touch, and it's just the gestures, and it makes me smile when I'm around them. Like
That's
when
so
I
cute.
see them doing those little gestures to each other and stuff, because I feel like that's very important, right? In a relationship, like just out of the clear blue, just come over and one will touch one's shoulder or something, and
It's beautiful. Yeah, and you're modeling. You know, I learn a lot from my kids all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes they say, like, you know, our kids kind of come in on our shoulders, right? So like you, Barb, you gave Paul and Brett like this great foundation, and then they're going to kind of go further. You know, whereas we're still like, okay, I'm still working on my trauma.
You're right.
Kids are like, you know, thanks, Mom. I'm waiting.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm also like at this, like one way or the other, like always like I don't want to jump into something so fast because I've seen family and friends do that, like from one to the other. And then I'm at the other spectrum, like, well, I don't want to be lonely my whole life either.
Right. And to see it more as, you know, just like, I don't know, the way you take a pottery class or something, you know, to see dating a little bit with a little bit less charge on it, or like such big stakes, can be super helpful. It's like, you know, you seem like someone who just likes people, you know, and so it's like, I'm just getting to know people. They happen to be men. Maybe some of them I might want to, you know, be physical with. So that can be that's really the way to look at it. And, you know, if you date someone and you're like, oh, I really like that person, you know, to kind of keep it open, because, you know, just to, you know, they say date for a little while.
Yeah. And then I can call the kids and be like, woohoo.
Yeah. And, you know, you have so much to offer, Barb. Like, people want playfulness. They want a woman who's embodied. You know what I mean? She's in her skin. They don't care, you know, like women get so like, oh, when I lose that 15 pounds, I don't know, you know, whatever. Like, but no, men are like, men want someone who is intimate and sexual. Like, that's a biggie, especially even at this age. There's a lot of people who kind of shut it all down. Unfortunately, like a lot of postmenopausal women don't kind of do the work to get their sex drive back, or like, you know, change it up a little bit. You know, there's a lot there. And again, it'll be more a matter of you finding the person who has what you want, but you being honest about what you're looking for in the beginning, being playful for yourself. You know, where's that inner slut? What is that persona like? Does she get to come out a little bit? You know, she's got the red bra on under the shirt, you know, like, well, whatever it is.
And I think we should spin the narrative, to be honest, at, you know, wrapping this up, is like my mom and my brother should be saying, I know I'm worthy of XYZ. And it's not like, oh, I'm lonely and I'm this like old lady that doesn't want to. It's like they have expectations, and it's not that they're like, oh, I'm a loser.
Yeah, we're not We're not calling it quits and being like sitting in fetal position kind of thing.
And you have so much to offer. Yeah. And you get to dictate what you want. I mean, you could go out and have like an amazing kiss, right? You know, like for where you're at right now, that would be, you know, really light a lot of things up for you and give you a lot of information. So I think that just to, you know, we can get really far ahead of ourselves.
I mean, there are some days that I'm like, I'm going to be lonely, old lady. Like,
no. Yeah, exactly. And there's this whole beautiful world out there. And then also to be like, I have space in my partner, in my life, for a lover, like to start to kind of imagine that. And so you're like, oh, this would be fun. You know, I'd like to go to that restaurant with my lover, or whatever you want to call it, my partner. But it could be fun if you want kind of like, I want that lover energy, you know.
We're pimping Barb and Brett out.
I know, right?
Who's ever listening? Who's ever listening?
And in your inner slut, whatever that looks like for you. We'll have to have a follow-up where we're like, okay, Barb, what was it, you know?
Then I'm going to be like, oh, I can't even keep my eyes open now.
I just want Barb to call me and be like, so this happened. I'd be like, you little slut.
Right.
He's holding on to that phrase. Or me or Brett.
Deborah, where can people check out your work? Where can they follow you? Genuinely, I'm saying this, I love your social media. You have so many good nuggets. Aside from sex, you have, I mean, so many things.
So the socials are like Instagram, Deborah Marie Grace, and then TikTok, Deborah_Marie_Grace. And then my website is deborahgrace.com. I have books. So this is called Sex Poems. This is my slutty phase when I was 41, kind of exploring lots of things, but also like a really deep, there's some trauma healing there, some marital stuff, infidelity. Like this is like really a deep dive into like my psyche and my experience of, and some of it's just raw celebration. There's one ode to my vibrator in there, Barbie, my like. So that's that. And then I have one love poems, which is fun. This is about my second husband and a little bit more that kind of romance. Can't get it on the screen. And then I have like books on mothering. So if you just go to Deborah Grace and scroll some of those, you know, you'll see there's an author page.
We got Barb some stocking stuffers for this holiday season.
I know,
so
right?
Thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, I was like, I appreciate you lending your voice. I think our year and power of reclaiming what a slut looks like, and you know, our sluttiness. And
I love it.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
I love what you're both doing. You're welcome.
Thanks, Deborah.
Bye.
I love her.
It's so sweet.
I know.
Love that. I'm really glad Brett jumped on.
I know,
That
me
was
too.
cute.
I know.
That was cute.
He was putting together your chair and overheard the topic of sex from his mom. And
He was literally like, I can see he's literally over top of the computer. So I'm like watching him and I'm laughing because I'm like, oh my gosh, like what other person has both their like one put in a chair together, one doing a podcast.
They're talking to one son talk on a podcast talking about sex. The other one's putting a chair together. No, and I want this to be clear. My family is never going to be shamed by feeling like, especially Brett saying like, oh, I'm almost 28 and I've never had sex, or my mom who has only had sex with one person and is scared to get out there. I feel like we have fully disclosed and discussed, like my family has great integrity and they're people of substance and they deserve to have that reciprocated. And they should not feel shameful or negative for feeling like they need to do something for societal pressure. So like, i.e. Brett saying that, or you feeling like, am I going to be this old lady that's, you know, it's like, you know what, if you are, who cares? But that's not what's going to happen. And I know Brett will get his little cherry popped and
I'll know all about it.
Yeah, there you go.
It'll be him coming home and us FaceTiming you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of discussion around that. I was going to say something and I'm like, let's on that note, thank you everybody for listening to another week of Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom. We love and appreciate all of you. We can't say it enough, and we can say this enough, but make sure you follow our Instagram, TikTok, Facebook page at Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, I see those numbers trickling in, and it's always nice that people subscribe and watch our stuff on YouTube. It means a lot. Make sure you check us out on YouTube at Hold On, I'm Calling My Mom. And make sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast. You're streaming it. Share it to a friend. They might need to hear. Maybe you got a mom that's got some cobwebs.
On that note, I'm hanging up now.
She's like, I'm out.
Bye.
Call you later.
Call you later.